Hello, miners, and welcome back. My name is Nathan Asbell, and I'm a counselor here at Student Wellbeing.
My name's Amber Johnston, and I'm also a counselor at Student Wellbeing, and it's time for your morning cup of joe.
Okay, Amber, morbid question time. What do you know about poisons?
Should I be afraid of this question?
No, there's a documentary that came out on Netflix called American Poisoner, and I thought it was really interesting. I bet you can't guess what the world's deadliest poison is.
No, what is it?
It's actually botulinum toxin. It's
Really?
the toxin found in Botox. Because what it does is it stops, I think it's acetylcholine, from operating, so you get paralyzed, which paralyzes muscles and then helps your face to relax, so it gets rid of wrinkles.
Wow. So how does it not kill you when they inject it in your face?
Tiny, tiny amounts. Or I'm not exactly 100% sure, but I hear it's medically safe and a lot of people do it. It's also good for other medical issues as well. But it can kill a person at 1 nanogram per kilogram.
Wow.
It is incredibly dangerous, incredibly lethal. But what about things that are toxic to our soul and mental well-being? What would you say are some of those toxins?
Holding on to anger can be very toxic. And,
Absolutely.
Resentment, holding on to resentment can be really toxic.
Yes. Those are the toxins actually I wanted to discuss today. Those are the toxins of holding a grudge or having a resentment. So to start off, we're all nerds here, and so I just want to talk about the Prisoner of Azkaban. Okay, in the Prisoner of Azkaban, Harry Potter discovers, rather surreptitiously, hidden underneath an invisibility cloak, that his godfather, Sirius Black, killed his parents' friend, Peter Pettigrew, and then turned on his family by turning them into Voldemort, telling Voldemort where they were. Voldemort then went and killed his parents. His parents were in hiding, and only someone who was in the know could have told Voldemort. Harry overheard Professor McGonagall telling this information to the Minister of Magic, and when he found out that it was Sirius Black, he swore in his wrath that he would kill this man. Now, the killing curse is a forbidden curse in the world of Harry Potter. I think it's like Avada Kedavra or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's against the rules of magic. So here we have Harry Potter willing to violate a deeply held belief and value, willing to kill Sirius Black. So there's a great phrase we like to use, and that is resentment or holding a grudge is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die.
Right.
There's another phrase that's more ancient than that one, and it comes from the Suttas, which is Buddhist scripture, where Buddha once said, "Holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned."
Right.
So how do you think that Harry Potter holding on to that anger and hatred kind of burned him?
Well, holding on to that anger, he went into that situation. He later met Sirius Black, and he went into that situation angry at him and willing to kill him. And when they had that scene, there was actually a moment where Harry most likely would have killed him if Remus hadn't come in. And think of what that would have meant for Harry as a character to hold on to that and that regret, because even if he was that angry at the moment, anger fades eventually. He's holding on to it, he's ruminating over it, and then once the act is done, that anger is going to eventually dissipate. He's going to have nothing to grasp onto anymore. And then the guilt of what he's done and how it differs from his core values is huge. Not only that, but he missed out on time of getting to know Sirius himself And we know later in the series that Harry and Sirius become very close. Sirius is his godfather, and they becomes a big figure in Harry's life for the short time that he remains in the novels.
Right. Something you said really stood out to me, that, let's say that your life is driven by that hatred, that grudge, or that resentment. You reminded me of a character from another movie called The Princess Bride.
Oh, one of my favorites.
Yeah, there's a guy named Inigo Montoya. My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die, right? We love that line.
Right.
And he takes his entire life. So, a little background story for those who haven't seen the movie. He was a young boy, and his dad was a famous sword maker. And this guy came in, and the distinguishing feature of this guy's appearance was that he had 6 fingers on one of his hands.
I think it was his right hand.
I think it was too. Feel free to laugh at us behind our backs if it's the left hand. We're good with that. But in one of his hands had 6 fingers, 6-fingered man. And so he spent his entire... So after this man ordered a sword from his father, he came back and offered his father only a fraction of the price that his father deserved for making this sword. And it was a sword, beautiful sword, well balanced, perfectly balanced, gold hilt, gorgeous. And in fact, the Dread Pirate Roberts even looks at that sword and goes, wow, I've never seen its equal. And so he has this sword, and his father refuses to give it to the 6-fingered man. So the 6-fingered man kills his father, and Inigo Montoya challenges the 6-fingered man to a fight and loses. And the 6-fingered man slices up both of his cheeks and leaves him with scars. So Inigo Montoya devotes his entire life to the study of swordplay, so that the next time he meets the 6-fingered man, he will avenge his father. And there's a great scene in which the 6-fingered man throws a dagger and hits Inigo Montoya in the belly. And Inigo Montoya, the 6-fingered man, his real name is Count Rugen. And Count Rugen looks at him and says, let me give you the quote. You must be that little Spanish brat I taught a lesson to all those years ago. Simply incredible. You have been tracing me your whole life only to fail now. I think that's the worst thing I've ever heard. How marvelous. Count Rugen had not thought twice about Inigo Montoya that entire time. Spoiler alert, Inigo Montoya kills him because...
But not before he repeats repeatedly hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die. And he just keeps repeating it over and over and over and over and over again.
And what's interesting is, yes, he got his revenge. Yes, the bad guy dies. But at the end of it, he's asked, well, what are you going to do now? And Inigo Montoya says, I don't know. Spent my entire life doing this. And so luckily, Wesley, the Dread Pirate Roberts, says, you'd make an awfully great Dread Pirate Roberts. And he's like, He starts considering it. Mm-hmm. But he had no idea what to do with his life after that. His entire life had been eaten up by this heinous act of one individual with 6 fingers on his hand. And he couldn't let it go. Now, another aspect of this, that truth is, when we are hurt by another person, unlike Count Rugen, most people are not flat out evil. Mm-hmm. Okay? When we're often hurt by another person, it's often done in ignorance or as a rude moment that was not personal to us. And there's a concept called Hanlon's razor. It states, never attribute to malice that which is adequately explained by stupidity. I laugh every time I hear it, because oftentimes people do things in ignorance and in flat out stupidity that have no malice behind them. But we get so mad and frustrated, like, that jerk cut me off. That jerk didn't see you and had no idea that you were even there and didn't know you were there until you started laying into your horn and flipping them off and cussing them out or whatever it is you're doing in your car. I don't know how many of you experience road rage, but don't do it. But basically, that guy had no idea you were even there. It was done in ignorance, not because he's a jackwag and just trying to make your life miserable. I can cut this guy off, And most of the time, people are just trying to get their physical and psychological needs met. Mm-hmm. We talk a lot about William Glasser's work and 5 needs that we each have, and how we try to get those needs met, being survival, freedom, fun, belonging, and power and achievement.
Right.
And so most people are just trying to get their needs met, and we're trying to get our needs met, and sometimes it's come into conflict with each other, and that's where we get the friction in life. And it's not that people are evil, it's just that people most of the time just rub each other wrong.
Every behavior that we do, every single one is as a result of an unmet need. Everything that we do. And so when people are acting in ways that are maybe not conductive to meeting our needs, we have to think, what need is that person trying to meet right now? Because often they get caught up in their own needs, and it's like they have blinders on and they can't see the needs of other people. And so in those times they act in ways that are inconsiderate, in ways that are maybe not thinking about what other people need, because they're so focused on their own needs.
Absolutely. Now, I don't want for people to be mistaken. Evil does exist, and there are people that have evil intent and evil designs, and they are going about the world trying to hurt people. There are evil people. Okay, evil has been the subject of much study, even by Dr. Philip Zimbardo, who was a previous president of the American Psychological Association. I'm not trying to dissuade you of believing in evil or to have rose-colored glasses on. Sometimes people act in calloused desperation, but not everyone and everything is out to destroy you. And that's the beautiful part, is that, honestly, most of the time, people who hurt you do so in a way that is not on purpose. And they do so in a way that they have almost instantly forgotten. To be honest, most people for whom we burn with anger or resentment may not even know that we hold that coal or poison for them. Most are unaware that we have such a resentment for them. Just like Count Rugen had no idea there was a Spaniard boy who had been bested by the sword and was spending his entire life to kill me, or to kill him. He had no idea. Didn't think twice about the Spaniard. Just like Sirius Black had no idea that Harry Potter had sworn to kill him. He had no idea that Harry Potter held such anger and hatred for him. He was surprised to hear what Harry accused him of. When Harry discovered the truth, like you said, he felt a great sense of closeness to Sirius. In fact, he was going to live with Sirius when he was done with school. So, for another great example, one that you and I were talking about was actually Romeo and Juliet. Those wily Montagues and Capulets, right?
Absolutely.
So, it's a twisted love story. You and I were discussing how toxic the story of Romeo and Juliet
really
actually is. I mean, yes, it's romance, it's dashing, it's sword fighting and all that kind of stuff, but honestly, it's like 13 and 14-year-old getting
over 3 days.
Hooking up over 3 days, and now they're willing to do this crazy thing for it, and it ends up going very badly. The crazy thing about the families, the Montagues and the Capulets, why did their hatred for each other start?
The book doesn't even say, and I don't know that any of the characters even know what started it.
Right.
It was called it an ancient grudge or something to that effect. But it was something that happened a very long time ago and nobody even remembers. Kind of like the Hatfields and McCoys, that old story. Nobody knew what started the feud to start with, but they're just carrying on because that's the way they've always done. And in the case of Romeo and Juliet, so many of their children and their family members died for this feud.
Absolutely. So it reminds me of another poem, a famous poem, just thought of it just now. It was called The Rape of the Lock. And it was about a boy, and it was this satire poem written about these two warring families where they were ready to kill each other. And the most recent incident that happened between them, the two of them, was that the boy cut the girl's blonde hair off.
Oh my gosh.
And in school. And this is an ancient poem. It's written a long time ago. And the author made it to be the most heinous crime. And he held it up with victory. And, it was this crazy story. And the families, both of them, were just guffawing at it. They found it humorous. And it actually helped heal the families.
Wow.
But it was a story, once again, where people had no idea where it started.
There's actually an episode of Doctor Who in which he appears and the doctor, this is David Tennant's doctor, appears in this ship, and they're trying to investigate. There's a war going on with these like fish people and these other people, and it's been, according to them, going on for centuries, and they're constantly trying to kill each other and battling. And come to find out, it hadn't been going on for centuries. It actually had only been going on for a couple days, but because of the technology of the ship was advancing time so greatly, millions of, like, not millions, but hundreds of generations had happened, and they had forgotten the source of the war because of the technology of the ship. But they were fighting this war, and people were dying at advanced rates, and they couldn't even remember what started it.
Right. So something to think about for a minute. Knowing that all we stand to lose, knowing that we're drinking poison and dying slowly, hoping that we kill the other person, knowing that we're holding a burning hot coal in our hands to throw it at someone, and we're the only ones getting burned. The question then becomes, does the other person deserve your forgiveness? But really, does that matter? Because maybe or maybe not. But the question really you should be asking is, do you deserve the forgiveness? Do you deserve to be free of the poison or the hot coal you're holding?
Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting.
Right.
Like, forgiveness doesn't mean that everything goes back to the way that it was before, or that you allow that person to hurt you again. Forgiveness is merely an act of saying that I'm not going to hold on to this anymore.
It's no longer my responsibility.
Yeah, I'm going to let go of this coal and let it stop burning me. Forgiveness is an act that we do for ourselves, not for other people.
Perfect. All right. That's just something I think we should consider when dealing with the grudges and dealing with, because of always tend to lose, and the peace we can actually gain by letting go. And not forgetting, but just by simply letting go. Thanks again, miners, for listening, and we look forward to hearing from you again soon.
And have a great day.
For more information about mental health and wellness, contact Student Wellbeing at 204 Norwood Hall. And you can also give us a call at 573-341-4211.
The song Happy Days is brought to us by music from www.free-stock-music.com.